Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Good to see you survived the last meeting and you're back.
Why would you say survived?
No, I don't know. I'm just being lighthearted.
Yeah, no, I survived, and yeah, I want to come back as often as possible, actually.
Right.
Mm.
As that being your first meeting, I'd be very interested in any feedback from you about how it went, what you felt might be different, could be different, where the value was for you, if any.
Um, yeah, actually, there has been a lot of things happening since that. I don't know if they're all having to do with that meeting only, but for sure, still a lot. I mean, in the meanwhile, also I had a one-on-one session with Todd that also did a lot, and also your chatbot, which I mean, yeah, so yeah, what happened was like, I mean, that meeting with Marius and you guys, um, yeah, was actually, I think the biggest takeaway was really what Marius said about like, you're not doing anything here. So this is a process that happens. So, then to be honest, like when this other guy, I think Tyler was his name,
Yes.
yeah, and when he was talking, um, I was a little, I mean, I was confused and like actually cornered, but I kind of, in a way, in a sense, enjoyed that, but um, still, I couldn't really, I don't know, I mean, make anything out of this. So I just said like, okay, then you just feel it. That's all fine. But then also I was a little bit distracted because I had to go to another place. So I don't know if you saw it, but like I was on the way. So that was a little bit distracting and I could not give it like 100% of attention. But I was like, okay, then that's how it is. But the next days, then I had time, to really just sit with whatever comes up, which I did. And actually, it was not discomfort. There was nothing that was not okay to sit with, except, I mean, sometimes boredom came up, but I also tried to really just see that. And then I always used the chatbot if like some questions came up. But after a while, it got like more and more, everything got like very bland somehow, and in a sense meaningless. And I was talking to this chatbot about this, and it kind of said like, yeah, that's exactly where you are. That's what it should be. Nothing has meaning and blah, blah. And so it kind of like the wait, sorry, just need to make that silent. It distracts me. So and I don't know, like this more like just being in the moment and every thought that coming up, like also like just putting away, like it was more and more of this meaninglessness. And then the chatbots that told me, yeah, this is it, and this is the final barrier, and like, is there disappointment? And I was like, yeah, sure, there's a lot of disappointment. And I don't know, that night I was actually very or that day was got like very emotional about this. So I was just like, okay, these emotions are just coming up. And then I talked with Todd about it, and he was also then saying like, yeah, maybe you are approaching it a little bit too much, and there's too much of wanting and too much of doing, and that is now why it's bringing you like to this edge. So the next day I said like, okay, you know what? Then my approach is really not doing anything, just really sitting, because that is something I still really enjoy. And I also told him like, I cannot stop right now. This is like so important for me. I feel like I'm really onto to something, so I cannot stop. So, but I said like, okay, I stopped the trying. And then yesterday, so I don't know, I that was intense and huge and beautiful, everything, because so I was really just following my like the attention, because that I had like a little realization a few days or like a week before, that actually where the attention goes, that is really something that I am not in control of, that I could really just so clearly see and feel. Um, so I kind of yesterday went also with this, like just going where the intention goes, like naturally. Um, and I don't know, like suddenly, like every time a thought came in, and that was very new to me, I was always during that thought, I could it was noticed, that's a thought. So yesterday I really saw kind of the mechanics, and also Todd and I were talking about this thing because I also told him like there is still always this feeling of a self behind there, and also like that's what I was talking with this chatbot that mm, this feeling feels so real. And Todd and I were talking that I don't know that sometimes like this connection of like moving eyes and then a pressure in the chest, the combination of those two things is what might be this feeling of the self. So yesterday, I don't know, it was very clear that every time like a thought came up and another sensation was there, that just this connection that is done, that this is somehow what feels like a self. And also what yesterday felt like so strong was nothing is done by me. So these things that Marius said were came up where like I really felt like I understand this. This is more of a thing that's running, it's running, it's running. Everything just happens. And what changed yesterday also was that I really said with this thing, is there anything bad about this? Is there anything bad if there is a thought coming up? If that is also in this space, like why would I even, I mean, yeah, why is that something you would have to fight? And yesterday but yesterday, and also I know that's nothing I did. I just felt like somehow I was faster than normal, or like it was faster than normal, that I could really see it coming up. And it was actually so cool because then I saw the thought, then there was this internal voice that was kind of commenting on the thing that I have just noticed. But I could also see like, but this is like really just repeating this thing. And that is what gives this feeling of a self. So, and then there's this other thing like, this is cool, this is cool. And you can actually see, don't lose this. I was like, yeah, but this is the next mechanism point. So it's a click, click, click. And actually it started to really amuse me. It was fucking hilarious to see. It was not something that was like, I need to fight this, no, go away. It was more like everything happens in this space. And actually what's kind of charming, it's kind of funny how it then always tried to put a hook on in this. And yeah, so that was cool. Like yesterday, I was really just going through the city and just observing everything. And but it really felt like, yeah, okay, I think there's actually nowhere else one one could be, just be here. And either like these stories, like you go with them, or it's just stories. But then they're also in this space where you actually always are. And it was just fine and light yesterday. So
Right, right,
now,
right.
yeah, that was actually really cool. But I mean, now I feel like the speed is not there. That like now I'm always it feels like more again behind those thoughts. And I noticed today like there's this thing coming up, this doing again, like I need to go there again. I need to do something. And now, but like no, okay, but this is a good
Okay.
entrance to always see this. I want to go there again because yesterday I could so clearly see that this is the mechanism that is just, yeah. So and now I totally understand, like every time you want to do it, like you want to wake up, you feel like you're doing that, that is exactly already when you're already buying into the story. So yeah, I think my plan now is to really just do what I did yesterday, really just sit and really without this wish, because like it really came when I said like I stop wanting to approach anything. And that was really because the day before of the doing was so painful after a while. So
Okay. Stop,
I,
stop, stop, stop now. Stop. Take a deep breath. Oh.
yeah, sorry.
Oh, I'm exhausted. Wow, that was you were really going flat out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with it. Just stop right now and take a deep breath stretch your chest out from the inside. Let it flop. Let it relax. Let your shoulders go. And just observe your breath for 2 or 3 breaths. And tell me, what was the thought you just had that caused you to smile?
Mm. Hmm. Actually, it was more like, oh, this is nice.
Good,
And
good. Okay, even better. No thought,
and
just a realization. Yeah.
no, and then yeah, but in a little bit, this is nice. I was like,
Right.
it felt a judgment again. So that floated in.
Yep, yep.
So
So when you see something like a judgment or
mm,
you're doing,
mhm.
is your reaction to want to correct that? Does that naturally follow?
No, I mean it was actually funny. It was more of a chuckle about it.
Yes, excellent, excellent, really good value. So that is the most appropriate response you can have to anything that you realize is happening, and that is
Hmm.
amusement,
Hmm.
being amused by the fact that it's there.
Hmm.
Everything is there to tell you something. Whether
Hmm.
you can hear it, whether it's clear enough, is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Everything is there. There can be nothing wrong. No matter
Hmm.
what comes up, it's there to tell you something. And if you don't hear it, it'll come back again and again and again until you do hear it. And when you hear it, it probably won't ever come back again. Or maybe you'll forget and it will come back and remind you. There can be
Hmm.
nothing wrong.
Hmm.
If you find yourself doing, if you find yourself believing in a self, what you said was quite clear to me that you recognized something that felt like a self. And I had the idea in my head that you were also saying that you also recognized that it wasn't an actual self. It was just something that felt like a self. Was that true? Was that accurate?
Hmm.
Yeah. So if something feels like a self, again, there's nothing wrong.
Hmm.
Absolutely cannot possibly be anything wrong with it. But it's also telling you something, isn't it? It's telling you that you got sucked into this idea that somebody has control, that somebody should be doing something different maybe, or whatever the see. So what we have is this big front story that says, oh, that feels like a self. And then we have these little backstories that go, well, that shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be feeling that. You should be relaxed and calm and clear. But there's nothing wrong about the fact that it exists. It's just there to remind you of something. And when it reminds you, it's not saying
Hmm.
do something different. It's just saying something could be different. Do you get the difference between those two?
Hmm.
So as soon as you get the idea that you have to do something, you have to not be this way or be another way, it's
Yeah.
taking you down the wrong path. So the right path is this. So get that word this into your head. Make it bold and capital and put an exclamation mark at the end of it. This is as close as I can imagine to what actually is at any time. And what actually is just this. And if we want to describe it, we might say, well, it's what we experience at the moment. And then we realize that what we experience is an interpretation. It goes through the filters of everything we've ever learned, everything we've ever been exposed to, our whole history. Our DNA also shapes it in some way. So we have an interpretation of our experience of what seems to be not us or us. But that interpretation is as close as you can get to what is real. And we don't know what it is really. We only know what it feels like to us. And if nothing can be wrong, there's nothing to do.
Yeah, that I felt yesterday, and I don't know even yet. I just woke up, so I can't wait to go out and like just sit again. Because yeah, it felt like everything that is in the space is generally okay. And if this thought comes up or whatever, then it was also like, oh, okay, then this is in the space now.
Yeah,
okay.
that's excellent.
And that
Beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, and I think with this lightness, I don't know, I don't know what changed so that one can actually see it as a thought and not always buy in, because that was so far always this problem that I just saw thought as a thought when it was already gone already, or like almost gone. Now it was really just like it came up and you could really see it all. That is nice. But also I feel like this is nothing I did. Nothing is done here by me. It's
Yep.
really just everything happens, and you just
Right. Could
maybe
you,
sometimes you don't. But,
would you,
like, or
would you,
sorry,
no,
keep
it's all
going.
right. It's all right. Would you say that inside that realization that nothing is done by you, would it also be true to say that nothing has ever been done by you, ever, in your whole life?
Yeah, I feel like it felt like one program. Like, I mean, everything is like conditioned. So like, I mean, I grew up in this world with this influence,
Yes.
and then with that influence, and that programmed this mind to do this and then that. So in a sense, it's now a program that I feel is like running.
Yep.
So, and it has always been running.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And yeah, and also that's why yesterday I really explored into just let go and let's say, okay, then it runs, and I sit down and I just watch this
Yeah.
film. It still
So
works.
how did it occur that you were able to explore letting go? If you don't do it, how did that happen?
I don't know. I really
Good
don't know.
answer. Good answer. Don't look for anything else. I don't know is the perfect answer. We can assume that it was circumstances, but we also can assume that one of those circumstances is that something has changed for you. Something has changed in your brain. Is a good story
But yeah,
that you,
I mean, isn't it also stories? Like, I don't, is it okay to not care?
of course.
Because I genuinely think I can even see like that's also like I feel there's a story creeping up, and it's like, ah, okay, then it's just the story again. Like, but
Yes.
it's easier to throw those than away. Also, like yesterday, sometimes it creeped up and wanted narratives around it, and now I feel like, yeah, it's one like story, 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 story. I don't
Yep.
have to buy into any of those.
You don't.
So yeah, yeah. But
And
I'll
you and,
explore. Yeah.
and you can't decide to buy or not buy them. but
Yeah,
recognizing
that's
that,
true. Like,
that,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, true. Yeah, that's the funniest thing about it. That's actually hilarious.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end,
Yeah.
all that can happen is you can just watch, you can just watch
I can,
Lenny
yeah,
doing whatever Lenny does,
yeah.
whatever the world does. Yeah.
This is fucking hilarious. Yeah, yeah.
And there are things that you'll discover too. Things like, for example, boredom.
Mm-hmm.
Boredom is a great one, right? We think boredom is not pleasant, and we think it's very passive, but it's actually very active, and it's an attempt to get you away from wherever you are, whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so once again, we don't say no, no, no to boredom. We just go, hello, boredom. What are you trying to tell me? And then you look inside, and what is it you're feeling? And then you'll find that you're feeling something that's a little bit uncomfortable, and boredom is trying to get you away from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But again, also, I don't feel like it's me that is like turning towards this boredom. I don't know. I mean, I also feel like either this turns towards it or it don't, like also like this is not me doing that.
Mm.
I don't know.
But even so, to say it's not you doing it, in the back of your mind can be a recognition that turning towards it is
Mm-hmm.
much better than turning away from it.
Totally. Totally. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's also so and also hmm, these things happen now. Like I also yesterday I did turn to things, but maybe it feels also like it's because I heard all these things before. So that's why that is naturally doing it now.
So
Because it
you
heard
could
all,
say that all of those things you heard and everything
yeah.
you already know all come together to provide the conditions
Mm-hmm.
that made
That it's
turning
there.
towards it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is more how it feels, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
So
yeah,
another really big one is, where are you going to go from here? Is this it? Is this everything?
I don't know. It's also like this was also this question coming always up. And then again, feels like this a story that wants to put a hook in it. Right now, I would love to just be. I just love to be, and because I don't know. I mean, the good thing is that Leni does not have a job right now and still has some good money. So I would really just love to sit and just watch if any stories. But like everything that feels like I want to go somewhere is exactly like a hook again into a story about something. And I would love to be not in the about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, I get you. So that this is a big one. Okay, so here we move from your thoughts are pretty rubbish. The old thoughts, the way that we respond to them and how they seem to push and pull us around and so on. Right? But we've reached a stage now where you can ask yourself or ask your thoughts or
Mhm.
just as a matter of just a way of putting it, whether or not this idea of going somewhere is coming from a place of distraction or a place of inviting. And so if it comes
Mhm.
from the outside, kind of the outside, just because this is a fairly subtle area. Okay, so if it's coming from your ego, if you like, that says don't get uncomfortable, right? So that it'll provide something to distract you. So go out, go and get a cup of coffee, go and watch a movie, or go and talk to friends or something, you know. That's a distraction, that kind of thing. But there's another thing, that the thoughts that come up, that come from your intuition, they come from inside, deep down, and they have a different flavor altogether. They're not loud, and they're not insistent. They're just possibilities. Those thoughts are ones that are worth taking notice of. So they'll tell you stuff about what is actually going on, whereas the other ones are trying to hide what's actually going on from you. And so recognize that there's how it will appear for you, I don't know, but you could, the way I put it is that the ones that come from the ego are loud and insistent, and they seem to come from outside, whereas the ones from your intuition are soft, and they're possibilities, and they're inviting, and they come from inside. So different ideas. So they're not trying to distract you from something. So maybe you can just ask the question: is this a distraction? Is there something for me to? Because you might start to have a feeling of discomfort that is still very subtle, right? And before you even realize you're having that, the idea to go and do something will pop up to distract you from it. Whereas if you ask yourself, oh, where's it coming from? Then you sink into what's actually going on, and you'll see whether it's a distracting thought or something inviting you to be expressive, something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The newness of this means that there's lots and lots and lots of things to consider that will come up. And sometimes, you know, so many will come at once that you can only pay attention to one or two at a time. But it'll settle down. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good that
Yeah.
it's exciting for you.
Yeah. I mean, my plan is really just to sit now through, everything. And actually, in a sense, that was also the plan to see, like, because yesterday things were fairly easy because it was easy to sit with everything because there was a slight discomfortable feeling, but it was it was not that bad. So I wonder if now worse feeling comes up, if one can really sit and say like, oh, this is also in the space, and it's also like genuinely okay, and also just part of the film that is running. So I think this is what I want to do now. Just see can I be okay or cool with everything that happens in the film somehow. Because then it could be fucking enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lenny.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And sorry for my blah, blah, blah in the beginning, but it was a lot.
That's all right. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's interesting to see that kind of energy get going. Yeah. I'll tell you to stop if you're going too fast.
Yeah. Yeah, you did anyway.
It's a shame Marius wasn't here to get some of that. Lenny gave some good feedback about what you told her last time. That was nice.
Yeah, I told Marius, I told about you that these words yesterday when you said like you remember you're not doing any of this. That was actually really also like an ignition for a really nice day yesterday where I don't know, the thing somehow, the mood did something, I guess. I don't know. So thank you.
Yeah. It was a nice meeting. It was nice talking to you.
Oh, you Norbert? You're a new face for me.
Excuse me?
So you are a new face for me. I haven't seen you before.
Yeah, thanks for the possibility. Leni told me about this, and I really wanted to meet you guys. Yeah.
So tell us where are you up to on this adventure?
Crazy journey.
Yeah.
So can I take the time to like maybe?
Yes, you take as long as you need. Yeah.
Okay. So like I'm 35 now, and it started around I was 24. My life from my teenage years was pretty rough in general. Like I ran away from home when I was 15, and like I always was noticing all this weird background patterns in my life, like this people pleasing and depression and addiction was a big thing. So there always was this general sense of unpleasant contraction, and I was already addicted to several substances, so psychedelics came naturally. And at some point, like I was having all these mystical experiences and breakthrough experiences, but the changes I felt for a short time would never last. So about 4 years ago, I made the conscious decision, like my addiction came under control. And so I made this conscious decision to stop working with psychedelics and just meditate. And around that time, like exactly the same months, I started having Kundalini experiences and like spontaneous movements, kriyas, and like my emotions were all over the place. And things started changing. But then about 3 years ago, maybe, then came the realization of there's something wrong with the plane of thought in general. Like I can't put my finger on it, but there's just something off. And yeah, so there was still a lot of depression. It was so weird because sometimes I would, for a few weeks, come into this place of openness and no boundaries, but it wasn't as understandable, or I couldn't intuit so much what was happening really. It was like for 2 weeks, a year, or every few months for a short while, and then again this dense contraction. And I started doing body work, a lot of it, and this Zen practice with a teacher, which helped. And over the last couple of months, it started losing up more and more the more I seriously started inquiring and like meditating. And now I'm at this very, very strange place where it feels like it's jumping from one pole to the other. Like a few weeks ago, I was meeting my Zen teacher every week, and I was focusing on this place before knowing, and like discarding every thought or everything that was thought, and just focusing on what's here. And I would try to inquire, what is it that pulls me out of what's here? Why the insistence on labeling, and why is it so hard to like just feel in the formless before everything becomes a label? And I kind of broke through, and I could see the mechanism of that. It was like something wanted to see what was going to happen to like maintain this control. And for a short while it felt so sad, because it was like I realized that like I've been almost like I've been an actor my whole life, acting before myself in this headspace. And then those 2 weeks followed where I could really maintain this boundless state, and everything was so. But then someday it creeped back up again, and in the morning the contraction around my head and my neck started, and with it came the thought of, now don't lose it, now don't lose it. And then the next few days, like, yeah, now every morning when I wake up, the heaviness around the neck, and I start to really get, it feels like it isn't just like before I thought if you understand the belief, it just vanishes. But it feels like there is a charge that just depletes, and there is like some trust that has to. And it's really hard for me because one day I'm in it, and then again these ideas creep up of, you already know how to stay there, don't let it go, you know it. And then, but it's so bizarre, and it pulls me in this direction and in the other direction, and that's where I'm at right now.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. So do you recognize any pattern to losing it? Does it always happen on a Monday? Does it always happen when you think that you've got it? Does it what's the pattern? What's involved in losing it? Do you recognize anything?
It feels like almost like it's a sinus curve, like it's the good part of the pattern, and then it, like the trust can't maintain itself, and then the bad, like every time the bad stuff comes, you start recognizing what, like the suffering gets more, and you know you can't go back to this pattern, you know. I don't know, it doesn't feel like a, it feels more and more mechanistic in some sense, that it plays itself out, and you want to control it, but it goes through the motions. Like the inquiry definitely helps, some forms of it, but then again, I've noticed sometimes, because like I've had breakthrough experiences using certain inquiries, but as soon as they become, this technique helps, you have to do this, it just becomes another.
Yep.
Yeah.
It loses its power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you tell me anything that's really good about that phase when you've lost it?
It's kind of free, and it's very the suffering it's so much less suffering, because of course there are still like some patterns, and you talk with someone who triggers you and it pulls you back in for a short while, but the sheer amount of this dense contraction all the time was so much less. It's
Yeah. Okay. You might have misunderstood. So you've got let's say you've got the times when you've got it.
yeah.
We'll call that the good time, and then the times when you lose it, let's call that the bad time, just for the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I wanted is, can you tell me something good about the bad time? What happens
Of course.
in the bad time that's good?
Yeah, it strengthens the idea to stay on the path, because you don't inquire in the direction of realization because you want to, because it's the right thing. You inquire in that direction because you suffer. So it's
Yes.
like,
Yep. I get you. Motivate you big time. Right. Yep. Can you now tell me something bad about the good times?
well, it feels like in a strange way you lose something that was never there in the first place, but
So would you go as far as to say in the good times there is some grief?
yeah, yes and no. Like it feels like the grief is part of the process, but when I'm in, like it isn't maintained all the way.
So how active is the idea that you've got to keep it when you're in the good times?
It depends. It really felt like it went through stages. Like in the beginning when I broke through, it felt like it was naturally that the idea of staying in the thought state, it wasn't like I had to discard thoughts. It felt for a short while that it made no sense, like keeping the old pattern alive.
Yep.
But
Yep.
after a while, it weakened. Like I couldn't trust it. The old patterns just kept creeping up and up until they made the way back into my life.
Yep. Can you see a connection or a relationship between the old and the new? You know, the good and the bad state. We've got to find a better way to describe that. But when you're feeling when it's good, when you're in that really nice place, how prevalent are the ideas that the old stuff is going to sneak back in and disrupt it for you?
It depends. Like sometimes, as soon as I've noticed it, like the old patterns slowly coming back, there are moments of panic. And now, don't let it go, don't let it go. But at some level, it feels like, this process will just do its thing naturally.
Yes. Yeah. Well, of course it will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of don't let it come back suggests that part of you at least wants to control it. Do you think you've actually got any control over it, or is it just a desire to control it that's there?
It is, to me, because I have very much this part of these bodily sensations, it almost feels like there is, I don't know, the realizations are very clear sometimes, but it feels like there is an emotional part of it that isn't depleted yet. There is still like a lot of fear, and like I've noticed anger seems to be, or something that feels akin to anger seems to be a very triggering emotion. Like
Yep.
as soon as it creeps up, there is this strong impulse of don't let yourself be angry, don't lose control over yourself. Like, yeah, so there is definitely a lot of stuff
Yep.
left. Yeah.
Yep. So can you see that don't lose control, don't let that happen, that effort actually makes it happen?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's weird because some part of me wants to find something to deal with it, because like some parts feel very stable, and then some emotion comes up and I get impulsive, and the movement into the bad direction starts happening.
Yeah.
And there is some part of me that then gets panicked and is like, there's something to do to stop it, or to like maybe not stop it completely, but
Yeah. So what if I said you're totally helpless? You cannot stop it.
yeah. I mean,
Well,
I've
that's
intuited it, but I don't want to accept it.
yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can't stop it, and history has shown that you fail every time you try to stop it. How many times has it happened? Countless times.
Yeah.
And you can't stop it. Right? You know, so the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
So you're being pretty insane with this one, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
So what can you do?
Nothing.
Absolutely
Nothing really.
nothing. You can do nothing, right? So all you can do, which is not a real doing, is watch. You can watch it happen or not happen.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm making is that the effort to stop it from happening causes a contraction in your body, which causes your mind to start running off in a certain direction, which actually creates the very thing that you don't want to happen.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like I could see this mechanism sometimes, but it's still, it's so weird that like don't stop it is also if you try to not stop it, to let go of the idea of
Yes.
stopping it, it's also control.
Yeah, exactly. You're right there. That's very clever, isn't it? How do you
Yeah.
do not doing, eh? It's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you try to stop it, you can't help that. If you don't try to stop it, you can't help that. What if every time it's come back, instead of it being something that you lost, you lost being in that wonderful place that you experience, it's not that you lost that, it's that has allowed you to look at the next thing
Yeah.
that comes up. So you're in a good place, and so your whole organism, your whole being says, well, now you're in this good place, let's have a look at the next bit of shit. Right? And when that next bit of shit comes up, instead of looking at it, you're going, go away, I don't want you here, I want this good. Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, let's do the opposite. Instead of trying to keep the good and push away the bad, let's welcome the bad when it turns up and say, what are you trying to tell me?
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm. Now, if that happens, you couldn't help it. It just happened. If it doesn't happen, you couldn't help it. It just happened. But now that we've considered it, the chances of it happening are greater.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you intuit these things already, but it's still
Yes.
so hard to, this
Yeah, it
impulse of
doesn't
control is
feel
so,
right. Yeah, yeah. And that's that old thing. That's that old world stuff coming back in saying, you've got to be in control. It's good to be in control.
yeah. Also this, it's so weird, these contractions and this Kundalini like stuff. Sometimes if in the mornings it's the worst, because at night the mind is like slow and still and all those things come up. So in the morning the contraction is so heavy, and sometimes when I inquire in the contraction, I can sense that it's all
Yes.
the me
Yeah.
trying to control it, but it's still, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I've got a story that what happens every morning when we wake up, we reincarnate. That is, we put on the stories of Norbert all over again every morning when we wake up.
Yeah, it feels like it. Like, I don't know. There is no big alarm clock and there is no sirens in the morning, but it feels like it. Like, it's time to be Norbert.
Yes. Yeah. But there's another reality here that maybe you haven't considered yet, and that is that you've got no fucking idea who Norbert is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty apparent by now.
Yeah. So it's an adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the more you know, the more you'll know that you don't know.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
It's good to hear all those things, because it, like, some of these things you can intuit, but it's such a weird place to be in, and there's so much. It feels so trust based. It's all about, like, at this place where I'm in, it feels like you just learn to trust more and more into what
Yep.
is.
Yep. That's right. So that it's that part of us that doesn't trust always imagines a whole lot of things that we need to protect from. Yeah. So learning to trust is learning to recognize that we're not really in any danger. We can let go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, crazy journey, but really interesting. Yeah. Let's enjoy it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for this possibility and this place.
Ah, you're very welcome. I'm looking forward to this journey. It's going to be a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Scott's been through a whole lot of what you were just talking about with that need to control. Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to
These.
Scott, by the way,
Yeah.
all of us.
I just wanted to say, Norbert, these meetings are really informal. You know, there's no rules. If you've got something to say, jump in and say it. No worries. Yeah.
Thank you, will do.
Be relaxed. Yeah. Mm. How are you, Jed?
Hey Vince, yeah, I'm all right, thanks. I'm all right, thanks. So polite, so
Yes.
British.
Yeah. Oh well, it's all over the world, I think. Yeah. They don't really want to know what's going on, do they?
I better come back in a minute actually, because my partner's just come in the room and she's gonna be
Okay,
making a
you
bit of
go.
noise.
Yeah.
I'll come
All right.
speak to you in a minute.
Yeah. How are you, Scott?
Pretty good, I guess. Yeah, pretty good.
Took you a long time to consider that.
It, quick, tiny story. After the meeting on Saturday, you suggested, like, so what if you distraction happens or whatever, and it didn't really land at the meeting, but within like an hour or two, I just kind of like let it happen. And then I just realized, oh my God, it's just here. Like, it's just not going anywhere. It's not there, it's not going to go away. The intense, sensations. And my mood just came right up, and I just was like, okay, I'm just going to walk around. I'm going to be here. I'm going to allow life to just do whatever and just watch, what happens to the sensations. And so like was let the fear of the intensity just kind of was reduced a lot, like, and it just really changed my experience. And then Sunday, on meeting Sunday, like I went out and I'm that I'm kind of do everything, grab on everything, right? So I exercise a fair amount. So I kind of like, I didn't realize that there is a correlation with this, sympathetic nervous system activation and like working out. Like when I work out, I kind of work out like I'm 40, instead of almost 70. And so I did the same workouts I usually do. Like I did a long walk up hills and stuff. And then the next day I woke up and I felt good and I went to the gym. And then I guess that must have hyperactivated my nervous system again, like a cortisol spike or something. So I've been trying to like, I'm not trying anything. I've been, I guess I've been, I don't know, self-care has been happening. Like I've been just still sitting with the sensations, but there's an added layer of all this like flu-like symptoms and muscular uh, aching and, just really sick. So just tried to eat well. Also, I guess it was from sitting through this intense sensations. All of a sudden, I was able to like ignore alcohol. Like I don't like medical marijuana. I really have abused medical marijuana marijuana in general my whole life, and I always use it as a distraction. And somehow I was able to just kind of drop that. And then, so anyway, I'm probably in a little bit of withdrawal from caffeine, alcohol, sugar that may, amplify it. But anyway, right now I'm like kind of coming down off of it. And I woke up this morning, like have an alarm set. It's this meeting starts at 2 o'clock in the morning for me. And I had to get up to go to the bathroom. I finally got to sleep. I hadn't been able to sleep too well because of the activation. And I got up to go to the bathroom and I laid back in bed and I couldn't get to sleep. And then some guy contacted me on Facebook yesterday who was friends with my brother. I didn't really remember him. We had a couple conversations. And when I woke up, memories started popping up. And I remember that I don't think they beat me up or anything, but they kind of abused me. And this guy like admitted to being with a neighborhood girl who was the first person I'd ever had physical contact with, first woman girl I'd ever kissed or whatever. Anyway, he said he was spent time with her right in that same time period when he was 21 and she was 16. And I'm like, anyway, when I woke up, I'm like, this guy just admitted to being a child molester. Anyway, so that kind of grabbed onto me and I couldn't get back to sleep. So I just came, like my alarm. I knew that this meeting was here and I just decided I needed to come be in a safe zone for a little while. So here I am.
Hmm. So are you feeling safe or unsafe right now?
I don't feel either right now. I just feel the sensations and the increased heart rate.
Would you imagine that increased heart rate is to do with the story you just told or the circumstances you're in now, or is it a leftover from what's your thoughts about that?
I think it's I think it's the combination of the sympathetic nervous system being activated and some processing from childhood trauma happening, like under the
Right.
surface.
But you're okay with sitting with it, allowing it to do what it wants to do.
I am, but not because I'm brave. There's no there's nothing I can do about it. So thank God, because otherwise I would have ran. Like I wouldn't even I would have ran. It's been about a week nonstop, so I would have ran.
Right. So if you were to describe it purely from the perspective of not having any meaning, just describing what's actually going on, not even the idea of your parasympathetic nervous system, but just what you're experiencing, you would describe it as that you've been somewhat hyped up for a week. Would that be a reasonably accurate description?
Yeah.
Would it also be more accurate to say you don't know why? These stories you've got about activated parasympathetic nervous system are kind of comforting stories, but we don't really know if that's the case, do we?
I guess I have a tendency to try to use science to try to figure it out. I guess that's part of a distraction, I guess.
Mm. Well, it is a distraction in a sense, isn't it? Because you're up there in your head creating a story, and it appears to be a good story because you've got a bit of scientific background there to bring into it, but it still is a story, eh? There just is this fairly difficult to describe in detail what's going on for you, but it is that this feeling that something's a bit, would you say, out of balance?
My intuition is that it's stuff is happening that I can't actually see.
Yeah, yeah, good. Right. So would you call it a healing something? Does it feel
Yeah.
like, does it resonate a little bit for you that it's something's
Yeah.
working its way out, so to speak?
Yeah.
So when you get stories about it, of course, what happens is that your focus goes to the stories and not to what it is you're experiencing. And the best, stupid words, but you know what I mean, the best way to heal, the fastest way to heal is to be fully in it. And that any story, even if it's an accurate story, is an attempt to be out of it. We say, oh yeah, we're trying to understand it, but that's just a way of not experiencing it, isn't it?
While I recognize that it can act as a distraction, for the most part, I am fully embodied into these
Right.
sensations. I can't get
Okay.
away
Yeah.
from.
Yep. Okay. So the story is only sometimes active. Yeah. Good.
I spend a lot. Yeah, most of the time is spent just feeling it.
And feeling it, experiencing it at that level that is beyond labels, beyond where words can be accurate.
Thoughts come up. You know, in the beginning, it was like it's good, no, it's bad. So there's thoughts and attempts to label, but they're weak. They're just passing thoughts.
Hmm. Can you see that sometimes the thoughts and the feelings get a bit confused about whether a thought is a thought and whether a feeling is a feeling? Sometimes thoughts appear to be as feelings. Have you ever experienced that?
I'm not sure.
Hmm. So you know, if you're fully immersed in the feeling, that there's not a thing you can say that's even close to accurate.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, I don't want it to make sense. I want you to experience it. But yeah, of course it makes sense. Yeah.
My experience is it's still rather overwhelming. Like,
So overwhelming in a discomfort, in an uncomfortable way, or how overwhelming? In what way is it overwhelming?
it feels so intense, you know. And then after I overtrained, it got like there was an overlay of extra,
Yep, yep.
you know. So it you know, it's not. I can't label it as pleasant. Like,
Yeah, yeah. That's no.
unpleasant label. Just, you know.
Yeah, yeah. You'd rather not have it. Is pretty clear, eh?
Right. Like,
Mm.
although if I don't want it to go away because I know that it's.
Yeah, you want to make use of it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. So can you see that if you give any validity or credibility to this story that it's because you overtrained, that takes you away from what might be going on? I mean, without doubt, it will have some involvement, but as soon as you go, oh, it's because I overtrained, you're separate from it again. So any stories about it are just stories to be allowed to run in the background, but not engaged with. Any stories, no matter how credible they seem to be.
I guess I was trying to explain why, maybe to myself, why it got even more intense after having that experience of, oh, I can totally handle this.
Oh, that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. Immediately, you're an arrogant prick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do get it. It's part of your personality, at least my interpretation of your personality, that, you know, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it well. You know, you're really going to put everything you've got into it. So let's go. And then you go, oh, whoa, maybe I've overdone it. Yeah. And of
But it
course,
is
it's yeah. Go on, Murray.
yeah, I was just gonna say or underline what you've been pointing to, Vince. It is just valuable to see or recognize that attaching that story to it is the mind grasping onto certainty or understanding. So it's still the same thing that we've been discussing earlier. And that's not wrong. I also want to preface that if that happens, that's what happens. happens. But the valuable thing is to recognize that what is happening.
Yeah, I think to some degree, I know that I recognize it, but again, like Norbert was saying, like you can have intuitions about these things and not be fully integrated. God, I don't even know what stupid story I was getting ready to tell anyway.
Could I throw something in for a second?
Yes, of course.
Please.
Thanks for the possibility. Because I was doing body work for a long time, and like the connection of thoughts and feelings sometimes is so weird, because I thought that I was feeling things for all my life, and there was this, like when I started doing body work, it took me a few months to learn that I never really let feelings be what they are, because I thought that thoughts are just like those things that like pop out and you notice them right away, like, oh, that's anger, that's a thought. But sometimes they're in the background, and like sometimes I had to learn that there was a label on a feeling, and the label kind of hid it away in the way that it was like, I already know what it is, I don't have to look closer. And it like went under the radar.
Yeah, that's a big one. Mm. I've been having this little thing going on for me for a few days now, and one of the things that we can all get lost in the details of these things, right? And the thing to be reminded about, I think, the valuable thing to be reminded about is that there's not an actual self here that's experiencing this. Yet when we get lost in these details, almost always there's a presumption that there's a self there that's doing the experiencing or that's having the thoughts. And the really weird thing is that presumption that there is one is what creates one. Even though it's an illusion, it gets created and is given some reality. So it's really hard to kind of move from everything is what it is and we have no control to, oh, this is what I'm feeling and I would rather be feeling something else. And even if we say, oh, I see that as a story, who's seeing the story? Who's relating to it? It's a sneaky, sneaky, sneaky bloody thing.
So as soon as we try to do anything with our experience, even if it's to try and understand it or to apply a technique or anything, we're basically
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything. And especially any word, any idea of being able to describe it, any thought about it, actually creates the very illusion that we're trying to see through.
and even just trying to notice experience rather than just be experience.
That's
Is
right.
separation, isn't it?
Yeah. And although we recognize, and if we've had the experience of just experiencing as it occurs, that's all there is, the moment we try and describe it, we've created a self that's doing the describing. So in a way, the only way we can be outside of the illusion of a self is to be absolutely still and say nothing and have no thoughts.
I guess we can be in action, in motion, but you mean mentally still? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, well, anything. What I'm saying is it's impossible to be without the illusion of a self. While
Apart from
we're
in those
awake, there's one there. But whether or not we give it any credibility is what we're really talking about.
But in those moments when we're just lost in experiencing, I guess there's no self at that moment.
That's right. I would agree. Yeah. Depending on the experience, of course, but yes, if we're totally lost, there's no self. Because so when I say self, just always read in the illusion of self as what I mean. But right, that the self can only exist as a concept, and that concept requires thought to exist. So self can only exist in thought, as thought. But if we respond to that like it's real, then we're I was going to say we're in trouble, but we're not in trouble, of course. But you know what I mean. That's when we give that illusion some validity. But see, we don't want to focus on that, but we want to not forget about it. We don't want to lose the idea that that's really what we're looking to achieve. And then all these other things that we're talking about, they just get in the road of that. They're the ones that trigger that illusion back into activity again. Every time I'm in the middle of doing a story on wanting, on desire. You know, that's wow, that's an amazing thing, you know, to contemplate that story. And the reality is that it's circular. There's a loop. The moment we want something, we create separation. There is us, and then there is what we want to acquire or whatever. And the moment we create separation, we create a self, and we create an other thing or other person. And they're all created. So in the end, can you say, are we going to reach the point where we don't want anything? I doubt it. I don't think so. But are we going to reach the point where we recognize that apparently has its own life? Again, it's just a happening. It's not something that rests on a valid self, idea of self. And we can play with words a bit. We can say, oh, well, we have preferences. You know, I prefer sweet to sour. You know, now, is there a self involved in that? Well, not unless I want sweet or I don't want sour.
Hi, Vince.
Hi, Lou.
Hi. Yeah, I'd like to come in on this one. I've just recently experienced something I want to say different, but I think I've experienced it before in my life. But this, I was working on some Feta 4, Pinella's work, Feta 4, which is once. And something's happened recently that before, when there was gosh, how do I explain it? I noticed that there wasn't the want for the same things that I wanted before. Something had dropped away, and then I noticed that there was some, I presume it's grieving of that want, and now that's gone. And so just in the last 2 weeks, just been wandering around, just getting on with just life, being a mum, working, and these ideas are just coming into my head about what direction. Like it's a business, and it's a website, and it's messages, and it's but there was no planning for this, so I've just got sticky notes everywhere. And I think you mentioned when you're talking to Lenny about there's a different flavor of thoughts, and that's what they're like. It's like there's no urgency to them. There's no, like, if nothing happens, that's okay too. And what I've been noticing is sometimes I can feel that there's something latching on to make something of those thoughts. So the thoughts are flowing, they're quite fluid, but then something will come in, and then the knowledge, and then the scaffolding of doing comes in. And so sometimes there's a little confusion as to what is flowing ideas to the old self trying to make something. Does that make sense? Sometimes there's a bit of confusion of what's what. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing is that there's a new way, and that sometimes the old way kind of wants to horn in on it, and
yeah,
it's just, yeah. Well, that sounds perfectly reasonable to me. But when that happens, you see it, eh?
yeah.
You see it happen?
Mostly, not always, but it doesn't take long, because it will go down a little pathway, and then I can feel that it's,
Yes, right. So I
this
hear you say
this is not it.
you
Yeah.
can feel, right? You can feel that. So this is your trigger, that something's trying to get in there that's doesn't really need to be there. Some of the old ways trying to get back in, and it's a feeling that tells you, probably some kind of a contraction or something that says, oh, this is a bit not right, a bit uncomfortable, or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, yesterday that happened, and I did take some time to look at that, and it was self-doubt. It was, I can't do this because blah blah blah, and then this whole story came out. But actually, if I could go back to that, and that flowy feeling, like anything's possible. And like, even if I never do anything with this, that feeling of creativity, well, whatever it is, I don't know what it is, it's just a different flow of thoughts. It's yeah, it's got a whole different feel to it. Yeah, I have had it before. I mean, I'm sure it always happens, but is much more recognition. I presume that's what intuition is. That's what we're talking about. I'm guessing. But just more in tune of whether it's coming. It's kind of coming from here rather than here.
Yeah.
And not even
Yeah.
here. I don't say it's even here. It's just that. Yeah. So when,
I like what I hear. It sounds good, you know. So it's definitely that flavour of is a really important way to look at it. You know, a really valuable way to look at it. And that, you know,
yeah.
you just know if it's smooth, you know, it's not. It's much more like chocolate than citrus.
Yeah.
You know, it's intuition. You know, it's coming up from somewhere down there, and it comes as a possibilities. You know, it's not. There's nothing shouting out, nothing demanding. It's just ideas of possibilities.
Yeah. Like just things I would never have. I couldn't think of. Yeah, it's
Well, see, there you go. You
yeah.
said it. You couldn't think of, right?
No.
See, before you and you're relying entirely on your mind, it had to be thought of.
Yeah.
Now we get these things that maybe you don't even call them ideas because they're not coming from the mind, or at least maybe you've got a mind in your belly as well. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing is I've had family here for a few days as well. And it was just such a great opportunity to watch what was going on. It was such a different experience. And it was like, it's like a wool jumper. There was threads being pulled, but instead of it all unraveling, there were just like little nicks. And then just some realization of some patterns, but not wanting to change. It was just a lot more curiosity, and I think I get that from these meetings. Is that and then what I noticed is that the flow of ideas that we were just talking about kind of stopped for a few days, or it seemed to.
Because you're pretty busy with that other stuff, I guess.
Yeah. There's I felt like this brain was kind of kicking in a bit more, but yeah, it was just been really interesting few days, just watching what's going on, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that watching, I'm imagining, also has a much wider perspective than the old way. You know, the old way was very narrow focus, and this is a much really wide open lens on what's going on.
Yeah, it was much more, I suppose, or you call it of service. It was much more like open giving rather than what this means to me. Like there was a lot less, a lot less defensive stuff going on. It was much more curiosity into why somebody might be defensive. Yeah. So instead of reacting to the defenses, is like, yeah, it was just more. It was softer kind of.
Yeah, right. And if you're doing that with family, that's a great sign. That's a really, really good one.
Yeah. So all good.
Thanks, Lou. That's great. Oh, makes me feel really good.
Oh, and I love that conversation that you, Marius, and Paul had about emptiness and fullness. I really love that conversation. It was brilliant. Yeah.
Good one. Yeah, we haven't done anything with it yet, but it's there. We will soon. So you're back with us, Jed?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. How have I been? Pretty kind of standard. I think, well, what's been different is remembering more often to just be in my experiencing, and lots of emotion, lots of sensation, lots of intensity, and I've just kind of decided to just, rather than trying to apply any techniques to do just experiencing, to just put my attention on experience and let everything go. Just keep letting everything go.
So Jed, tell me, where did that decision come from?
Yeah, it's happened somewhere.
Just happened. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, there's been some thoughts and ideas about it happening.
Yep. And somewhere or other, that possibility turned up, and then it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like what you've decided to do is not do anything. What you've decided to do is just watch, just observe. But it's kind of, that's really a negation of what you were doing before rather than actually anything. It's, so you're not doing anything. It's, you're more likely it's you're not doing rather than you're doing. So what you can, if you look at it from a slightly different perspective, you can say, I'm just not doing whatever it was I was doing before. And what's left is watching, experiencing. Not even watching it, experiencing.
Yeah.
Might be a better way to put it.
It kind of seems like there is something deliberate in it. You know, it does kind of seem like,
Okay, okay, so let's go with that though. See, that's a good one. It seems like, it feels like something a bit undefinable, indefinable says, it's kind of got a flavor of being deliberate. That's part of your experience, isn't it?
yeah, it seems like
Does
there's
it
a kind of
mean
movement.
anything?
Does it mean
Does
anything?
it yeah, that's right. Does it mean anything? Does the fact that it's got a kind of flavor, it might be the best way to put it, of being deliberate, does that mean it is deliberate or not deliberate? Does it mean anything at all? Or is it just that flavor that exists? If it means something, if let's say you discover that it means, oh, I did it, then that tells us something else, doesn't it? That tells us that there's part of you that wants to be responsible for doing that, which, as you can see, is a pretty definitive creation of self.
Yeah, right.
Now, I love this. I love the term that Marius comes up with. You're creating something out of nothing.
Yeah, that's how
Get
it
that? Yeah.
seems. Yeah. Yeah.
So the flavor of deliberateness, fine. It's a flavor. It means nothing. It's just, that's the way the mind gives meaning to these particular sensations and whatever thoughts might be hanging off it. It's also just what you're experiencing.
Yeah, I notice as you're saying all that, that part of me really wants to be responsible.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also part of your experiencing.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Jed experiencing, or welcome to experiencing called Jed. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much energy do we put into masturbating this ego that says, you know, oh, I'm no good. I want to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clever.
A lot of energy, huge amount of energy goes into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
like you've
what we've
said
been
many
taught all our
times.
life. It's quite understandable, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Wanting to have a sense of control, like having some kind of agency, it's a big one to let go of.
Yep, yep. And then you have this shift that you call awakening, and from then on you're wanting to not have a sense of control. And it's no different to when you're a seeker wanting to have a sense of control. You got to laugh at it. It's hilarious. I think it is anyway.
Yeah. And it seems like, nothing's any better or worse. But when, again, it seems like I remember to, well, just actually notice how are things rather than, and then it generally, I'll just end up having a little giggle or a smile because it's like I've been lost. Yeah, or there's something has been created that it's like a belief that things are a struggle, that things are difficult. And then if I just have a look at that, I notice that things are usually quite
Yeah,
nice, and
yeah,
maybe there's a bit of beauty in there. But that I hadn't just, I don't know if it comes forward, or I just hadn't noticed it or something.
yeah, yeah. Oh well, when we're in survival mode, we can't notice beauty.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. It's it seems like it's got so much momentum, this survival mode, that it's
yeah.
it's just it's just there most of the time, it seems.
Mm. Well, we're brainwashed, literally brainwashed into that from birth onwards. You know, that's what society does for us. It keeps us in that survival mode all the time. Thank God you're a weirdo like me, you know, that's just, yeah, that's, otherwise you'd be totally lost in it. Yeah.
Jed, do you see that nothing is actually happening, but we create or imagine the happening right now? So, right, the imagination now is that we're in a meeting discussing these matters. Well, all of that is imagined in the mind, and that what is actually happening is just you just sitting and making sounds, and then the mind is kind of imagining a meaning and a viewpoint, a narrative, and it's having that experience.
No, I don't see that. Um, I kind of I kind of understand that all experiencing is a kind of very subjective interpretation of some stuff. But it's quite a convincing story to me that something is happening.
I guess why I point that out isn't it's just to appreciate that no experience is wrong. It's just an experience, right? So it's like right now we've imagined a scenario where we are gathered in a meeting discussing matters of awakening, and we are sharing our imagined story or journey on awakening. But all of that is just created in the mind. And that's just part of our imagined life story, so to speak. And that's okay. Nothing is more right or wrong. It's just a beautiful fantasy.
Yeah, I don't really get that. I'm noticed my mind's trying to make sense of that.
Well, let's go at it one step at a time. Let's just go one little bit. Right. So it's clear to you that you're sitting in front of some device, maybe a computer or an iPad or a phone, but probably a computer, and that you're seeing colors and shapes coming, apparently in front of you, a couple of feet in front of you. You're hearing sound that appears to be coming from that device. And then if we retract ourselves back into that experience, then we can say that the colors are coming in through the eyes and the sound is coming in through the ears. But if we go back one step further, we go, well, we don't actually know that. That's just what we've been told happens, that there is just this experience of color and shape and sound. And then if we go back another step, we go, how the hell do we know that color and shape adds up to somebody? Well, it's so obvious that we never think about it. But the reality is that it's our brain, or at least we're told this, that it's our brain that makes sense of those colors and shapes and sounds. But we don't know that. That's just secondhand information that we've been told by scientists or whatever, biologists, that's what goes on. So there is really, all we know is that there is this experiencing that somehow turns into something meaningful. But that meaningfulness is different for you, and it's different for me, and it's different for all of us here. Right? There are similarities, but they're actually unique experiences. Everybody is having a unique experience. And that's as close as we can probably get to the nothing that is something, but it's the nothing, and that to make it into something that is meaningful to us, it's something that happens with our mind.
It's like any interpretation of what is happening right now is a mental construct. It creates an experience that is not real. Well, it's real in a relative sense. It's real in the mind. But it's not real for anybody else than you.
No.
I mean, your interpretation of what is happening here.
Yeah.
So you're right, it is a subjective experience. At least that's the way it appears to you, because that's all you've got.
Yeah. Yeah, my mind's like floundering.
And do you
No, I
also
don't want
see
to let
that?
go of this.
Do you also see
So
that when somebody is explaining something to you or expressing something that is not actually their expression that you are understanding, but it's your interpretation of what they are expressing that you are understanding?
yeah, I think I can get that. But what I'm struggling on is what does that to make meaning of what you're saying, I suppose. Like, does it mean that
There's no meaning. I'm just trying to um,
it's like
um,
loosen another story? Is that what it is?
I guess I'm just trying to help you e- express that, whatever experience that you're having or whatever relationship to what we're doing right now that you have, like if something is right or if something is wrong or trying to understand
Okay.
this and that, it's just your experience. Like, and it's
Yeah.
nothing is more right or more wrong. You can't do anything wrong because what you're doing is what you're experiencing, and your understanding of that experience is just that is
Yeah.
your simulation, so to speak. That is what's happening for you right now.
I can it makes sense that certainly my ideas of whether something is good or bad or whether I'm making progress or whether, that stuff is all interpretation. What I'm trying to do and not managing is like make sense of, so is this computer really a computer, and do you guys really exist?
Well, so it depends on what level you want to do that inquiry from. But what Marius and I are suggesting is that the level that's appropriate to do that inquiry from means that none of it makes sense. So if you were to just do this for me for a moment, shut your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice. Now, don't listen to the words that I say, blah, 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 blah. Listen to the quality of my voice. Listen to you're a musician. You get the timbre and the resonance or lack of, or all of that stuff with the sound of my voice. Now, when Marius talks, it's really, really different. Listen to him say blah, blah.
Blah blah blah.
See the difference, right? So you're hearing the sound and you're not making sense of it. Well, you kind of do. You can't help but not, you can't stop yourself from trying to make sense of it. But essentially, you can open your eyes again now. But essentially, what I'm saying is that it's the mind that turns around and takes these sounds and shapes and colors and the feelings that you get that you're responding to. You know, if I shout at you, you have a certain reaction to it, you know, and that's the mind that tends to make sense of those things. Right? But in actual fact, before the mind comes in, there is just direct experience. There is just the sound, there is just the shape, there is just the color, and that is whatever. And your mind is going to make sense of it uniquely to you. Although we share common things because we're all speaking the same language, so to speak, right? We can say, oh, you know, it's the same, but it's not the same. It's just kind of the same. And the
this
trick
is
is,
also,
yeah, go on.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say this is also, I don't want to qualify it, but to have this in mind when you're listening to somebody express their experience about being awake. That is so unique for them. It's so, because as soon as you start to express, as soon as you start to use words, you kind of forced to express it through your conditioning, through through the filters there. And then there's an interpretation of that from your side. And then all of these fantasies and expectations and everything kind of starts to be created that isn't even real. This is such a huge trap, potential trap, to try to compare and chase those expectations and try to match it up to what you're currently experiencing. So it's like awakening is totally unique for everyone. There's no same awakeness.
Yeah, we talk about it like there is something the same, like there is something in common. Yeah? And we talk about not being awake like there is something in common there as well, you know, so different things. And so, for example, were you here when Norbert was telling us his story, you know, and it became quite clear that for Norbert there was a place that was good and he wanted to be, and then there was losing that, and he didn't want that. And then we have this fantasy that, oh, if he was awake, he'd be in the good place all the time.
I've seen Marius smile as you say that. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great values of this group, isn't it? Hearing everybody's different experience and how you guys keep undermining that idea that awakeness is a particular thing or not a particular thing. It's really useful to keep hearing that.
Yep. We've got to keep reminding you that we shit too.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel some kind of faith or commitment or something is happening because, I mean, my experience is perhaps slightly better. But I've just kind of decided to just keep going with this. Or something has decided, something has got a momentum.
Yeah, it's there.
Keep
Yeah,
going.
I get that. And look, I want to say this, and I don't know if it means anything at all or not, but you look a bit different to me. Right? Now this is a subtle one, isn't it? Because how do you know, I couldn't draw a picture of the way you were before, but your face is much more relaxed or something. I don't know quite what it is, but something's different about it. But yeah.
No, it's true. Because I mean, I've looked back at previous meetings where I've been asking stuff, and yeah, I can see I was a bit more troubled.
Yeah, you seem a lot cooler, bro. A lot something. Mm.
You see that as soon as we have a idea or a fixed idea on how something should be experienced, we've kind of narrowed our experience or what we think our experience should be into that. And I guess this awakening thing, if we're gonna imagine some common happening for us, is that there's no narrowing anymore. So whatever is happening is happening.
Yeah, get that.
There's no fixation on it needing to be one way or another.
One small thing that the only what is common to all is not the experience. That there is no experience, and this is what common, and all the experiences is all unique.
Yeah.
Not real.
This kind of creation of an observer of experience is something I guess I experience. And it's very fleeting, but occasionally I seem to just be experiencing.
Yes. So that when we talk about observing, experiencing, language says there's an observer and the observed, but that's not what's meant. What's meant is a recognition that experiencing is what you are. And even that's not right, because you're not are anything, how can you? So you can't bottle experiencing, can you? I mean, I guess every travel agent wants to bottle it and sell it, but you can't really. No surgeon is going to find experiencing and remove it or do anything with it. But yet that's what you are. You are only now we are talking about a subjective level, relative level, if you like. Right. So we're not I have no idea about the absolute. If there is such a thing as the absolute, I have no idea what it is. All I can know is my experiencing of it. And I can't describe my experiencing, because as soon as I do that, I'm up in concept land. So I can only be actual experiencing. And if you can hook into any kind of experiencing at a level that's beneath mind, so you just push the mind away all the time and get into what experiencing is being experienced at the moment, and then ask yourself who is experiencing, and all of a sudden the experiencing changes. It actually stops. Whatever you were experiencing stops, and you're up in your head experiencing concept land to come to some conclusion about who is doing the experiencing or what is being experienced. So the only thing where that you can be out of concept with is direct experiencing. And that's all you are. Or alternatively, the same, you are all of that. And from that point, it gets really tricky, because when you recognize that any concept is thoughts about something, it's not the actual thing, that in the beginning you go, well, that's the way it is, that's different to experiencing. But actually, you're experiencing that as well. You're experiencing the existence of a concept, not what the concept's about, that's still concept, but you experience the existence of a concept. So
you can have a direct experience of a thought.
Yes, yeah. And then you go, well, what the thought is about is irrelevant. But if you remove what the thought is about, you also remove the thought, because it only exists because of what it's about. So it's a really tricky one.
Yeah.
So up to a certain point, it's pragmatic to see what you think about as separate to experiencing, as different to experiencing. But after a certain point, then they get married up again.
Yeah. I notice that I'm trying to do direct experiencing and notice myself doing it, so I can ask a question about it or try and describe it and check if I'm doing it right.
Yeah. Well, see, even you can go, there's another really interesting one that's quite good, and that is, can you notice something without noticing that you're noticing it? So metacognition stuff. So can you notice and not notice that you notice?
That's pretty subtle. I think what happens for me is that I've noticed a few times where that's happened, but it's like I have to do it a lot of times for my mind to be satisfied that I've got it or something, or I've understood it, or it's okay. Because if it's something new, my mind's like really interested, and very quickly it will try to understand
Take over.
that.
Yeah, it wants to own it.
Yeah. Do you think there's any? I've got a long-standing habit of meditating, and these days, I've done had different angles on it. These days, I'm mainly just practicing having my attention on my senses, and but then what's been happening is it kind of feels effortful to try and control my attention, direct my attention. And so I'm trying to let go of that and just let my attention wander around, and that kind of seems freer. I mean, I think it is freer. I guess I'm wondering, is there a benefit in like developing the power of concentration, which, you know, seems to be something that Buddhists talk about such a lot? That, you know, if the mind is more concentrated, it's a bit more still. It's, you know, I've trained the puppy to sit still, and then I can maybe notice things more effectively.
Mm.
So I've got a bit of a...
Well, I can't answer that one for you. That's a tricky one. I've just pushed my cage of monkeys over to the other side of the room, and I'll let them do whatever they want to do. So I can't relate to people who say they have no thoughts. I can't relate to that, but I can say I have no idea what my thoughts are about sometimes, a lot of the time, simply because I don't take any notice of them. So I don't know what's right. I couldn't say. It would appear that there is benefit in that. But I must say, like I did a lot of Vipassana meditation during my seeking days, and I don't know. I went to multiple 10-day courses, silent sitting, and Vipassana. You start after you do the initial breath awareness thing for 10 minutes or so. You watch. You just scan the body for sensation, from top to bottom, bottom to top, up and down, up and down. You do spend the whole time doing that. Anyway, I developed a friendship with a bloke who did every single course that ever came up. Every 10-day, 20-day, 40-day course he did. And he had been doing that for well over 10 years. I don't know how long, probably a lot longer than that. And I said to him, well, where's all the enlightened ones? Where are they? And he said, oh, maybe next lifetime. And that just killed meditation for me. I thought, what's the point? If you're not going to get enlightened from meditating, what are you meditating for? Well, I do get it that some people find it very pleasant to meditate. I actually find it quite pleasant to meditate. Although Vipassana, oh God, you know, the ache I'd get in my legs after trying to sit still for an hour was unbearable sometimes. But you know, I get it. But you know, there's a lot of other things you might enjoy too. You know, I enjoy ice cream, and I don't see meditation as being better than ice cream, or the other way around. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'd say do what feels good. That's what I would say. Interesting though, letting your mind do what it wants to do. And I certainly did a lot of that in my Vipassana days. It's a great way to pass the time because you're not there. You know, it's just your mind's just busy with all sorts of rubbish that comes and goes, and it's next thing you know, the hour's up. It's good.
Well, there's a trap in that. If you have this idea of something going somewhere, like that there is a progression, or that, you know, this will lead to something, then when that's not happening, you're suffering the whole way, potentially.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one too. When you think about that, that's Feta 3 stuff. You're doing something for a purpose. You're doing something with an expected end result, right? You're going to church so that you don't go to hell. That's all Feta 3 stuff. You're meditating in order to get enlightened. That's Feta 3 stuff. That kind of says, don't do it, doesn't it? But I'm not meaning to say that.
Yeah,
As soon as there is a concept of time or progression, there is a self that needs to be in the center of that, going from one place to another. That is all of that is imagination. You're creating a self to start from somewhere and through imagined time and process moving towards something else that it's only created in the mind. It's not actually happening.
So this is the thing. It doesn't matter what you do. It's your relationship to that is the valuable bit. So if you're meditating to get enlightened, you've created a self, and it won't work. But if you're just meditating because meditating feels good, not even because meditating feels good, but it will. But why would you do it if it didn't feel good? But if you're just meditating, then fine. If you're meditating to achieve something, I'd investigate that.
Yeah, you put your finger in it. That is what's happening. I've got this. Sometimes I think, I'm just being with what is. But there's definitely
An agenda.
somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get somewhere, trying to develop something. But I mean, I practice guitar to get somewhere, to get better, to learn stuff.
Well, do you? No, see, this is it. You can investigate these things, and get closer and closer to them. And you can go, do I have an end goal in mind? Am I practicing guitar in order to be able to play this particular piece so that once I can do that, I'll feel good about myself? Or am I practicing guitar because I believe that practicing guitar is a good thing to do?
Okay, so in a concrete example, I've got a gig next week and they've asked me to perform a particular song. So that's why I'm doing it. I'm practicing this week.
Okay, so it could be that they're the circumstances involved, right? And you've got this idea that practicing is going to mean that you can do a better job next week when you go there and do that. And you can go, oh, now I've got a moment, I'll practice. Or you can go, I've got to practice once every hour while I'm awake. And then you can make a big job of it, kind of thing. And the whole time is, how do you feel about it when you're doing it? That's the question to ask. What is your relationship to the doing of it? And it's perfectly reasonable that you have in your mind that practicing it is a good thing, that you'll get better and better as you practice more. Well, you might have experienced to the point where you over practice something and you start to get worse again at it. I don't know. but who knows? But anyway, so what is your relationship to the practicing? Is it because of how you'll look if you don't practice and you don't get good at it? Is that the big issue? Or is it just that it seems appropriate to practice because you've got that gig? And practicing just happens.
And one more thing that I would ask is, what if the whole awakening thing will make you stop playing absolutely? Just look, I don't know if you were able to see, but here I have two guitars and a studio. I did not play it for more than a year whatsoever, and I have no desire. What will happen if that's would be the result of the whole idea of awakening?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm holding it quite lightly now. I mean, I've certainly been through a lot of attachment and stuff around that.
Identification.
Yeah, identification. Yeah, it feels a bit quite a lot lighter now. But I just want to go back to this idea of progress. Like, obviously, there's all the stuff about my relationship, how I relate to the playing and the practicing, and my identity and all that. But like, I notice I'm getting better at things when I practice them. So why doesn't that apply to, I can develop concentration, I can develop the capacity to, have a stiller mind. Like, how can we just throw all that out and say, oh, there is no time?
If they're your goals, that'll work. If they're your goals.
Could I throw something in?
Yeah,
Like,
of course. Yeah. You keep talking. I just got to go and get my power supply.
So, like, I think there are two like concepts in meditation. One is that concentration thing. And the concentration is like this idea of asserting a bit more power or dominance on what is, to be like able to control it. But then there is also this thing of slowing down to just like, because for me, in the beginning, when I started meditating, I had this idea of I will be able to concentrate more so I can control the flow of what is more. The idea was something like that. But then quickly I noticed that what was happening was really more the emotional charge of things was like less and less. So my mind slowed down. There was less wanting, less insistence on what actually is or how it should be. And so it allowed me to just notice things more, because the part of the mind that was like labeling and insisting on what should be and what shouldn't be, and like looking at some things and ignoring others, that slowed down. So I think there's this weird thing, because at some point it goes in the direction of not wanting anymore, but in the beginning it felt like more there is this felt experience of suffering to some degree, and the only thing you know is you don't want that anymore. And even though that is a wanting, there is a wanting can be authentic, like a natural movement of consciousness, that it just moves in the direction from contraction and of all that wanting in the direction of just what feels natural right now. It's hard to describe because there are definitely two different styles of wanting. One is just the authentic expression of what is right now, and one is the insistence on how things should be. Yeah, I hope that was understandable.
Yeah.
Was here. Yep.
Yeah. I would want to chime in too. Because I was thinking about a sutta, Buddhist scripture, when a king asked Buddha, when is a good time to give charity? And Buddha said, whenever you feel inclination to. For me, it's just, I think I tend to go to just keep it simple, stupid. Because you can go into should I not train my skills because it is better for me? My goal is not to train my skills. you know, it's like going against. It is also making it a goal. Like I don't know.
Yep.
Getting skill in concentration is somehow bad thing.
Yeah, but like Norbert said, if you should, then maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm kind of overthinking it, but I can just let what happens happen.
Well, this is brilliant. Now you don't let what happens happens. What happens just happens.
Can I ask?
Of course.
Thanks. As someone who, as far as I know, has not passed into this understanding, what value is there? I don't know if this is what you were talking about, Jed, but about relaxing the nervous system. In my experience, there's a lot of pain, contraction, spinning, urgency in the body and the mind. And a lot of people that are so-called awakened or enlightened or have had this understanding of no self or whatever it is, a lot of them do seem to have gone through meditation. Afterwards, they say, oh, it's not needed. But a lot of them, it seems that they've gotten there by, yes, sitting in silence, and yes, allowing things to calm down. And maybe that's part of it for some of us who might be higher strung, or in other words, the body component and the relaxing into, allowing things, so to say, be as they are, and not being in a frenzy around it, and trying to just sit in what is. Does that have value along the path, I guess?
I can't imagine anybody who's there saying, don't do it. But I can imagine them saying it wasn't a necessary part. But I would say that every part of my experience added up to that when it happened. Every bit of my life, and every life I touched and every life that touched me was also involved in that. So if somebody meditates and then they wake up, you can't exclude it from being involved in that.
And I also,
Sorry.
sorry. Can I also say something to that
Yes.
with the meditation? So I mean, I was wondering the same, and I mean, really, I'm also just somewhere on this path. But like the way I see it right now is that, you know, I mean, there is a difference in this, like I'm meditating for this goal, and I'm meditating, and that's how I used to do it in the beginning. I was like, okay, so I must not do this, like okay, focus back on the breath. I wandered around again, and focus to the breath. So that was actually so much reinforcing a doing, and this belief that I'm doing these things. So lately I was just really sitting down with myself, sitting with everything that is here. And there was this difference that I'm merely just now watching. And I mean, now I feel like, okay, one can watch in every situation. It's just like, I think in the beginning, it was harder for me to watch while I'm walking, to watch while I'm talking. And that is even still very hard. So that's why I do sit down, because just like that, it gives me a little bit more, let's say, possibility to be in the just looking thing. But then I think later on it can really expand to everything where it's only looking. But I think it's so much about the not doing part anymore. And with the meditation, that actually, you know, it kind of helps this. But I think like the moment you do something in meditation, that it's when it's somehow getting in the way. And I think a lot of it now is really also, I think, especially for us in the beginning, is just sitting with a lot of what then also comes up internally. And that is also easier if you're just sitting and not doing anything. But I wouldn't even call it meditation per se. It's just more sitting with everything that comes. Yeah, that's just how I see it now.
That's good. I like that.
I think because like as soon as he started talking about it, it kind of like I was thinking of, I think the part where you have to go through this phase, or maybe that was the purpose of the phase. You had to go through the cycle of meditation where you started noticing yourself trying to control it and like refocusing your attention on the breath. Even though you realize there was so much control in it, you had to do it for so long to start noticing this pattern. And like for me, when I started meditating, it wasn't like that I had the goal to awaken. It was more that there was a lot of suffering, and I knew there were some patterns going on that I couldn't understand, and I just wanted to see what is really there, and I felt like I had no ability to do that. So it felt like a natural movement to, okay, maybe someone can teach me or show me how can I see the pattern, what is really going on here, because it felt like this natural progression of things that just had to happen because there was too much suffering going on.
Yeah.
So it's all this deciphering of meaning or purpose or reasons for why we are doing what we're doing, which is the extra. Because there is nobody doing all of that. That is happening. And then we have this thought overlay trying to give that meaning. It's not wrong, but it's helpful to recognize that that is what's happening. So when I say, or when we say, you know, meditation will not necessarily lead to enlightenment. It doesn't mean don't do meditation, because it's, you don't have any. If meditation happens or not, that's out of your control. But if it becomes an idea that for me to get what I want, I need to do this. That is just a thought overlay on what is actually happening. If you find yourself meditating, then you don't need to understand why. You don't need to put a purpose on it. You don't need to put a should or a shouldn't on it. You know, it feels good. Full stop.
So I like what Norbert was saying in that, you know, the idea of the practice of meditation with the intention to recognize some of the patterns or some of the way the mind comes in and what it does, that could have some value. But if we were to then look at who was meditating and whether that goal was the important thing, then we might get some value in terms of waking up out of the meditating. So it won't be the meditation that would make awakening more likely, but rather the recognition of the relationship to meditating would do that. But I would also say that it would be a good thing to recognize the patterns of the mind that might be more apparent if we meditate than if we're just very busy all the time. So nothing's black or white in a way, really. Right? So the thing would be, ask yourself, who is meditating? Or is meditating just happening?
Who is asking that question?
Yeah, yeah. And who wants to know who was asking that question? And back forever and ever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so layered in a way, because in one sense I agree with everything you just said, Vince. In another sense, I see that, you know, all of that is, again, a constructed meaning or a purpose or a story that we have no idea will actually lead anywhere.
That's right. We don't know.
One more thing that I can add to the subject is that the people that we hear on the YouTube and that speaks, that knows a lot about it, is usually the people that had a way, that a journey, that they meditated and they have, and this is the reason that they have what to say. I'm sure that there is a lot of people that awaken without in some different way, which is not really a way, but they don't speak about it. So we hear only the people that meditated, that know about it, that have something to say about it, to explain about, and there is not really something to say about it, and not really something to explain. So
Yeah, comes back to what I said earlier about awakening being like a total, it's the interpretation of one's own awakening journey is just, it's just a constructed story, right? One's own constructed story that one ends up telling on YouTube or expressing on somewhere else, and that feels so real because that's one's own constructed experience of what happened. So if you're going to talk about it, you know, you need to use your own experience. But as soon as it is expressed, it goes out to the world and is received by an apparent other, then it kind of sounds like that's what needs to be done to awaken. And because then, you know, you start to, the mind starts to believe that, and then you have more people believing that, and then you know, you're starting kind of a let's say I'm just going to use the word religion right now because you have enough people believing that same narrative, but it might not have anything to do with the reason why you awaken.
Yeah,
So I would say
think
just what feels natural, like what, there isn't any should or shouldn't. If you feel like you want to meditate, if that feels natural and good, that's the only thing you, like, that's your unique journey. There's nothing more right or wrong about it. I never got into meditation. I really tried hard. I was just ended up with a lot of suffering. So yeah, it's hard to express what I actually want to express, but it's, there is no shoulds and no shouldn'ts, and there is nothing specifically that we can know that will end up in awakening. The only thing that will end up in awakening, maybe, is what you experience. And maybe not. And this conversation that we're having now is part of that experience. And the thoughts that you have about it, the reflections, the insights perhaps that stood out during this conversation is part of that experience. And then after this call, whatever stuck from this call will change your experience and develop into another new experience, and so on, so on. Life is just showing up. It's just showing you. It's kind of showing the mind what is not true in a way. So it's kind of untangling what is not true until you eventually come to some kind of truth.
Yeah, and that is also a story.
Yeah.
You know, I found something that annoys me with Vince, and on a example, like I was talking about how I visualize emptiness as this prairie, and how I can dance with it. And when Vince started telling about, and you realize that you see every blade of grass in this prairie or something like that. Like you often go to this so many details in every blade of grass different, and how awesome it is. And and then I thought, wow, for someone who talks so much about curiosity and openness, you are not curious about my experience at all. You already have a ready story about it, what was awesome about it, and what I enjoyed and what I felt. And it even doesn't make sense because it was imaginary prairie. So, sorry, I just felt like saying it, not that I have issue with it.
I have an issue with it though. Thank you for saying that. I'm pleased you did. Yeah, I do that, don't I? I just bowl over the top of people sometimes. Yeah.
How do you feel about Bianca saying that, Vince?
Good. I feel I feel quite honoured that you're able to say that to me. That's really good. Thank you.
Yeah, usually when I say it, it goes away. It's it's like I was saying Marius the other time, how the tone of his voice somehow irritates me because my mind labels it as spiritual. And after that, now it's just gone, completely gone. There's no irritation with it. Or maybe you changed your tone. I don't know.
I have no idea. Maybe I did have to go back and listen to myself now.
Oh.
No, joke.
Well, I just think yes, it's tricky in these meetings. But we can find a story here that we latch onto. A story about not following stories or something.
Well, we kind of have to use stories, or else this meeting would be pointless. But is the recognition of it that's valuable, I guess.
I'm interested, Bianca, in why you didn't say what you just said at the time that I imposed my views on you? And I'm not. I don't. I don't need an answer, but I'm just wondering.
But it's similar with when I'm working on a text as my work, as my job. And I see a passage in the text and I feel something is off, but I don't know what is off. So I can't say,
Yeah.
I can't go to the author and say something is off here, I don't know what.
Mm. Mm.
I have to like sit with this sentence and then it comes to me, this here's some inconsistency or something.
Mm. See, I only vaguely remember the incident that we spoke of. I do remember we talked about that, but I certainly don't remember telling you what you were feeling or what. But there was that there was something off about what happened. I would love it that you would be able to tell me at the time as well. But I mean, telling me now is way, way better, 1,000% better than not telling me at all.
If I catch it in the future, I can tell you.
Great, great, yeah.
Better for who? Why would it be better?
Oh, well, I guess I have a story that I want our communication to be something that is I don't know, something that is good, something that is more empathic, I suppose. So in that way, I mean better. So I would say I was unaware of something, and my personality, I guess, was that I rode roughshod, so to speak, over what Bianca was saying. And I recognise that I do have a tendency to do that sometimes. It's not malicious or anything. It's not.
No. And you usually preface with, I imagine that the story here is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also
can I add? Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I wanted to add in that it's really interesting because I remember that conversation purely because there was an experience in that moment when you talked about dancing, and I remember it really clearly that there was a sense of freedom, and like I've got this thing about brick walls at the moment, and when and when you talked about the blade of the grass and the details, there was something in that resonated with the vastness, and then the detail and the labels, and there was something about you when you said that the dancing on the grass, that to me, I just remember the feeling of freedom because we can do whatever we want. We can create whatever we want. So I'm just curious because it's I had a very, very different experience from that conversation. Yeah. And so it's just it's the same words, but different experiences from different windows, isn't it?
Mm. I guess so. You know, I have here. This is me identifying. I have a want. I really wanted. I really want to know what you're experiencing, and now it seems like I got it wrong, and I'm a bit sad about that. A little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. Yeah.
So you're saying, Vince, that you wish you would be different than what you were?
Yeah. I reckon I accept that it's a done deal now, that one, but I'm really pleased that Bianca can tell me that so that I can be more watchful, or not, but that would be an intention that's come up here, that I'll be more watchful about. But I'm not going to be so watchful that I'm going to be not spontaneous. I'm still going to just blurt out things, I guess.
Yeah, don't overthink.
No, that's right. It's getting that way easily, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I was wondering if it is a difference in receiving because I don't get this when you say about noticing every detail on a leaf, and I think it excites you.
It does. Yeah.
This going into detail, and for me it is like more like taking in everything at once, every
Mm, mm.
it's
Yes, it's
like
definitely a
more,
narrowing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, like analytic approach and syncretic.
Well,
And
both happen, but those, yeah,
there is joy in both.
of course,
But
there is. Yes, yeah. But there are those. They are special occasions for me. Those moments when that happens, when I focus in really, it just happens, and they are moments of awe. Um, and they're particularly nice. I do get that. But I also, like you say, I do also have that big open expanse kind of thing as well. But it doesn't have the same poignancy for me as the other one. Mm. And that's possibly just a phase I'm going through too. Who knows? It's just, yeah. I got I got fascinated by a crack in the road the other day, and it was, and I remember wondering about why did it go that way and then that way and then that way and that way and not that way, why? And it was just total fascination for me, all as I kept walking. I didn't stop and study it or anything. It just was just there. Yeah. I enjoy being weird. And I was so full of myself. This is a judgment, I guess, that I missed your joy of dancing to the extent that I could have enjoyed it. Mm.
Yeah, it's interesting how we can suddenly become suggestive to others' experience when we are so immersed in our imagination about others' experience. So we get kind of excited because it reminds us of something, we enjoy, perhaps.
Mm.
Yes, I do it too.
Mm.
I think we all do that.
The fact that I had it, it's such a relief that no one is really doing it like so.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't quite reach the point where I patted myself on the shoulder that I didn't feel at all personal about what Bianca said. Mm. Well, are we getting to wind up time?
Guess so.
Yeah. So think about I'm what I want you guys to give me feedback on. So think about some of the points you'd like to discuss or to hear discussions of or see stories about. Right, I'm in the middle of doing a story now about uh, what am I doing the story about? I'm in the middle of doing a story about
Desire.
desire. That's right, wanting. Yes, thank you. I had a block on that one. But I'm running out of things to do stories on, but I'm really enjoying doing these stories. So yeah, if you come up with some ideas for me to do stories on this or that, let me know. Yeah.
I just wanted to say about wanting.
Right. Yeah. And if the format of the stories, I mean, I'm always trying to keep them to around about 400 words, so not too big, and so on. So anyway, see what happens.
I would be interested in hearing stories about your experience. Scott is nodding.
Yeah. Well, that took me straight into a bit of identifying.
Good.
Yeah, all right. I'll think about that. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being up so late in the middle of the night, Scott. I'm impressed. Yeah.
Bye.
See you later.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you so much.